So the first story we're going to talk about, this one was interesting. Originally, I had planned to do a thing about disasters. I wanted to do a week where I just talked about disasters. And then I was like, yeah, that gets kind of sad at the end. So I'm going to kind of break it up. Now, so this disaster is really bizarre. So back in 1971, Iraq was going through a big food shortage. Their crops weren't producing. They were having a massive drought. And they were just suffering. They didn't have enough food to go around. And what happened was they knew that Mexico had these special seeds that were drought resistant. Now, the reason why they were drought resistant is because they were coated with mercury. And the Mexican government actually had them all spray painted pink, so you wouldn't get them mixed up with regular wheat seeds. And they shipped them off to Iraq. A couple of things went wrong right off the bat. One, the Iraqi government, who was led by Saddam Hussein at the time, was very slow in distributing the seeds to the farmers. Two, people started stealing the seeds out of the warehouses. They started stealing back. They were like, we need these seeds. They started stealing the seeds. And three, when the seeds finally did start to get distributed, the growing season was already towards the end. So the seeds weren't going to do them any good until next spring, next harvest. So you have all these seeds that are floating around. They're covered in mercury. They're spray painted pink. And on the bags themselves, they had two things. They had a skull and crossbones, and it said, do not eat these seeds. They're poisonous. But it said it in Spanish. So in Iraq, they're like, eh. And the skull and crossbones, we think that's as an international symbol of don't eat this is poison. But it's other regions, it hadn't reached them yet, or they didn't really make the connection. I know they were talking about building a nuclear waste dump in Nevada. And one of the things that they're looking at, and they're trying to design a symbol that says, do not come here, that will be easily understood 10,000 years from now. That's what these people are trying to figure out. What type of symbol can we come up with that 10,000 years from now, if someone saw that symbol and had no idea what English was, they would know not to go in there? A skull doesn't work, because we see skulls in ancient history as religious shrines. So just seeing a skull doesn't mean this is deadly. There are certain symbols, like the biohazard symbol is designed the way it is with the thorns because it looks dangerous. It's a symbol that's designed to say, don't go here. But if you look at the symbol for radiation, it looks like a religious symbol. Skull and crossbones looks like a religious symbol. So is there a symbol that we can create that 10,000 years from now, people will go, that is a dangerous place, don't go? So the skull and crossbones, they really didn't think anything of it. They had the seeds, they couldn't plant them, so people began to do one of two things. They either were scraping off the pink paint, thinking then the seeds would be safe to cook into bread, or they weren't even doing that. They were just taking the pink seeds and mashing them up and turning them into grain either for their animals or for bread for themselves. Massive catastrophe. 6,500 dead from eating this mercury-coated seeds. 100,000 injured. People were going to the hospital with severe mercury poisoning. And depending on the region, the doctors either figured it out very quickly, and they go, oh, you have mercury poisoning. What have you done? How have you come in contact with this much mercury? And they were able to track it down very quickly. Or in other regions, they're like, I don't know why all these people are sick. People are just coming in and they're like just blurry. They're not blurry, but their vision's blurry. They're very sick and they're dying. So the signs of this mercury poisoning, first off, you'll get numb in your extremities. Then you start to get really unsteady. You're not able to walk. You're really not able to stand. Your coordination goes. Eventually, you do start to get blurred vision to just outright blindness. Slurred speech, nervous damage, central nervous system damage. So, I mean, it was just laying waste to entire communities. Now, what happened was, once the government started to catch on that this was causing a problem, they said, if anyone has any of this grain left, we're going to shoot you. It's poison. You got to get rid of it. And which is a weird escalation. They're like, you got to get rid of it. We're going to shoot you. And it's Saddam Hussein, so it's not like there's a lot of gray area there. So people are like, oh crap, I got to get rid of this grain. So they dump it in the river, causing even more cases of mercury poisoning. It's killing off fish. People who are eating the fish are getting mercury poisoning. They were feeding it to their cows. Like I said before, they were feeding it to their livestock. if you ate the meat, you got mercury poisoning. To this day, Iraq has the highest concentration of Parkinson's in the world. And Parkinson's the symptoms are very close to mercury poisoning. So the question is are the people who have Parkinson's being misdiagnosed? Do they just have super amounts of mercury poisoning in them? Did the mercury cause the Parkinson's? And once it enters into your brain, it has a half-life of 27 years. So you're stuck with it. This happened back in the 70s. I guess no, even if if water supplies were tainted and things like that, they'd still have problems with it. But yeah, all from a simple error in the packaging. If it had said in Arabic, this is poison, it's poison even if you remove the paint, do not eat under any circumstances, do not feed to your livestock, for planting only. That's probably too much to put on the bag. But you could have it poison for planting only. And they've had to change their labeling practices since. But yeah, from it was a confluence of, is that a right word? Confluence? It was a confluence of, is that even a word? We'll just say it is. It was a confluence of factors where you had the bags that weren't labeled for that region. You had the severe drought. You had people who were like, I can't wait a year to make some bread. They use this. 6,500 dead, 100,000 injured, and it continues to this day. Massive catastrophe. It's crazy what little mistakes can do to entire swaths of people, to an entire region, really. Because that mercury is still out in that water supply from them just dumping. And it wasn't like we're talking tons of grain here that entered into that ecosystem. I wonder if you bury a body that has mercury poisoning, how that affects the soil. Weird stuff. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.